And the idea of XenTegra is you can still have a great business while adding value along the way and kind of breaking that transaction-focused model. That plus the fact that, let's be frank, I can't work for anybody else. I had to start my own business.
Hey, Channel Insiders. Welcome back for another episode of Channel Insider Partner POV, your source for untapped opportunities and unfiltered opinions in the IT channel, all to help you make better business decisions. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso. My guest today is the one and only CEO, president, and founder of XenTegra, Andy Whiteside. Andy started XenTegra 12 years ago and has loved every second of it, which is palpable throughout this entire interview. I caught up with Andy about everything from Salesforce to ServiceNow to how XenTegra is defining itself as a VAR 2.0, as well as how XenTegra is enabling its clients with the latest solutions like Microsoft Copilot. Andy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Katie, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Absolutely. I know XenTegra is a family, and as I've mentioned to you earlier, I've spent the whole morning watching your videos, reading about you, and learning about you. Tell me what XenTegra is, how long you've been around, and tell me about your clients and the verticals that they serve.
The idea came out of, one, being a customer, two, being a value-added reseller partner, three, working for an MSP, and four, working for a couple of VARs, in my case, Microsoft and Citrix. And realizing all along the way there was an opportunity to be more of a partner, and I use that word very tactically and very strategically. Partner, where you actually bring value to all the parties involved. XenTegra was the culmination of all those ideas coming together and starting our own partner to help customers and vendors work better together around technologies that they're going to buy. And really, it equals what I call VAR 2.0, which is Value-Added Reseller 2.0, where unfortunately, a lot of the players in the space that were very value add along the way, a lot of those are gone. They've mostly been bought up by larger players. And the value-added reseller world, as it relates to the vendors and the customers and people getting what they need, has really become very transactional, unfortunately. And the idea of XenTegra is you can still have a great business while adding value along the way and kind of breaking that transaction-focused model. So that's kind of the idea, that plus the fact that, let's be frank, I can't work for anybody else. I had to start my own business. And I like I mentioned us a while ago, it really isn't us. Like XenTegra is a thing, right? The company is a thing. We are a community of employees and customers and partners. It's a movement. It's a community. It's a company. I'll say this all the time. I say this all the time. People talk about a church. A church isn't the building. The church is the people that, are part of the building is just part of it. The people make up the church. The company is not the building. The company is the people and the people we serve. Regarding industries, it really is super simple. We serve industries where companies use technology-specific applications. They use applications in general. And we treat companies with 150 employees and 100,000 employees the same. We just want to go help them solve the challenges that we know they're facing. I'll add to that real quick. I've got on my Computers for Community jacket right now. That includes large business, enterprise, commercial. That includes small business. That includes government customers. And that includes nonprofits. One of the things I'm most proud of is the nonprofit thing we've got going on at XenTegra.
And I absolutely have more questions about that later on in the interview for sure. I think it's so interesting what you're doing with that organization. And I definitely want to know more. But I want to back up for a moment because you talk about building those trusted partner relationships beyond just being transactional with your customers. Can you give me a real world example of that? Is there a success story you can kind of walk me through, whether or not you can name the client, and just walk me through that success story about how you were able to answer those challenges for them?
Yeah, it's I got plenty of examples. One happened literally last night where we're doing some marketing events. We're doing some lunches, and we've got a partner, ServiceNow, that we think the world of their platform. We're starting to run into customers by doing these community lunch type things that are not using the platform anymore. They had it, and now they've gotten rid of it. There's nothing wrong. The platform is phenomenal. But we know the customer was missing a piece in that story, which was the partner, the value-added reseller, not helping them get the most value out of the investment they were making in the platform. I look at it, from a sports perspective, like a basketball triangle offense. If we know that the vendor's not being represented well within that customer and the customer is struggling to be successful, we've got to be the third party in that to elevate everybody to make sure that the success is there between the three of us, not just the two of us.
You brought up ServiceNow, and I'm going to skip ahead to talk more about ServiceNow. You posted last week on LinkedIn, all roads lead to ServiceNow, and all roads lead from ServiceNow. This is why we are so focused on helping our customers and vendors integrate with the ServiceNow platform, the other technologies we sell and maintain. So as you said, ServiceNow is XenTegra's IT service management platform and ITSM integration. How does XenTegra partner with and build off of ServiceNow? For those who don't necessarily know what it is or how it can benefit them, can you kind of go into that for me? And what exactly did you mean by this post?
Well, in that post, I'm really talking about the fact that for most people, ServiceNow is an IT service management platform born in the cloud, which is, that's a big game changer right there. And we have all these other technologies that, because we sell and service these other technologies, we want to help customers who are investing in the ServiceNow platform, either through our managed service or directly by a relationship with ServiceNow. We want to help get the technologies and the APIs integrated with those technologies into ServiceNow so that you can then do stuff with ServiceNow and turn around and put that, leverage that technology to talk back to the platform, maybe the same platform that we're in question here, or maybe another platform. So for example, use something like a Tanium or something to gather your information around your assets, your technology assets. We need to get that in ServiceNow so that we can then turn around and do something with that data to interact with that same IT system, in this case, Tanium, or with other technologies that might need that data. That's the ITSM part of ServiceNow, but that's what I meant by the post. But in addition to that, it's the idea that we need platforms like ServiceNow in all other parts of the business: finance, HR, marketing, project management. And that those same concepts exist there, where we're getting stuff into the platform associated with IT or HR or both simultaneously. And then those other departments within the organization can then turn around and leverage those to benefit and make the company processes better. And that's before we get into the world of artificial intelligence, and specifically generative AI, and what it's going to be able to do to help those cross departments talk within a platform.
So let's continue to talk about some of the investments and exciting opportunities that XenTegra has this year. How are you partnering with Salesforce? It's one of the largest cloud-based CRM platforms in the world. So obviously it's a name that I'm sure everybody listening and watching knows. How are you partnering with them?
Well, that's a great question, and it kind of ties back to some of the things we've talked about so far, and I don't know if I've done a good job of articulating this, but you take these vendors. We started around Citrix, no doubt. I left Citrix to do this, and it was because Citrix customers were not getting enough value out of Citrix, which we know is great technology, and the partners servicing them, and that's an addressable space which is big enough. Let's say a $2 billion space. Take that same logic and apply it to ServiceNow and ServiceNow customers, and you've got the same model, just at a much larger scale. I can say this firsthand. We are a Salesforce. I don't know if I said ServiceNow or Salesforce. Both apply. But in this case, Salesforce. We are a Salesforce customer. We have been for probably 8 years now. And we went through partner after partner after partner. And those same partners would do whatever we told them to do, but we were looking for true advisement. We were looking for them to come with ideas. We were looking for them to, something as simple as taking us to the Salesforce Dreamforce conference so that we could come up with ideas on our own to work with them on. The concept of being that next level value-added reseller that brings additional value beyond just the what I would call pitching and catching of the products and the basic services. That's what I'm talking about. And to kind of tie that all up, I met with one of our partners before I made this move. And I said, hey, I would like to get more out of you guys. I would like for you guys to, invest in us a little bit and advise us a little bit. She said, oh, well, we'd be happy to do that. But you got to pay for the next level of service for that. And I'm like, no, that should just be part of being a customer. That's what drove us to jump into the Salesforce arena.
And how do you think that applies to when you're taking that sort of mindset, working with Salesforce and bringing it back to your customers? Where does that sort of mindset overlap?
Well, that's one of my favorite conversations to have with a customer when I go to meet them. And I talk very bullish about how we can help them and what we can do for them. And that is because most of the technologies that we sell and service and implement in a big way, we use them. So it really is the same challenges we solve for ourselves. We turn around and apply that to our customers. They may have different challenges, which is understandable and very likely. But at the same time, at the core of what we're both doing, we're using the technology, solving those challenges, and we have an idea of this is how we believe you should solve it, but let's hear more about what your challenges are. So it makes us very bullish on going to market if you actually use the technologies we sell, which is a little dirty secret in our industry. A lot of people sell stuff, but they don't actually use the stuff. It's kind of like misrepresentation kind of from my perspective.
Yeah, you actually spoke about in a webinar that came out this week, Microsoft Copilot specifically being used for 365. You said it's something that you've been using because you want to be able to explain it to your customers and to the folks who are using it and trying to implement it and probably know way less about it from a starting point than you even did. So in that interview or in that webinar, you actually said, if you think you're ready for Microsoft Copilot, think again, nobody is. What did you mean by that? And how is XenTegra helping customers understand and integrate Copilot and actually get ROI out of it?
I feel like I can make that statement, one, because like you said, we're using it ourselves, and it's kind of limitless. It's newish. It'll be evolving. Like there is an end to the evolution of what the generative AI world will be used for, specifically in this case, Microsoft Copilot, as it relates to the Microsoft M365 stack. Being in the same camp as all of our peers in this space, behind for some and ahead of the others, feel pretty certain that there's an opportunity to help everyone who's looking to get into the Copilot world. And you could be in generation. It's okay. Here's the way I would say it. It's kind of like digital transformation. There is no end. With Microsoft Copilot and AI as part of a digital transformation, which it's a subset of that, there is no end. It's just a matter of where are you at and where are you trying to go next, and how do we, or our partners, in this case we work with a company called XenTegra, how do we get engaged to help you get to the next step so that you're prepared to get to the next step that's coming. It's coming.
I can definitely link that webinar for those who are wondering, oh man, how do I go find a whole hour on Microsoft Copilot? I should ask, when it comes to generative AI in general, is that a technology that you're keeping a close eye on this year? That feels like a silly question, but why would you be keeping a close eye on it this year? And do you feel like we're making, as a society, too big of a deal on generative AI? Or do you think it's the real deal in how it's going to change the technology landscape in 2024?
Well, it kind of goes back to my conversation a while ago around ServiceNow being a platform, Salesforce being a platform. If we're taking all the things that we're doing and get them into those platforms, then we can turn around and leverage tools that will come out of generative AI concepts to be able to get the most out of all those platforms simultaneously. If we don't look at it that way, we're going to come up short. So is generative AI the real deal? It has to be. And it has to be because it's the thing that's going to bring all this together and do what no human or no team of people could do on their own. And that is start to produce things that just humans just don't have time or the capacity to do for ourselves. We're ideally in control of it. We're telling it this is what we're looking for. And that result's not what I'm looking for. Try again with a little more detail. But as far as getting the most out of the platforms, plural, that we're all investing in, which we are, it's going to take AI and generative AI to be part of that.
You're very invested, or I should say XenTegra is very invested in its customers being digitally driven. What is one thing that a customer can do with you today to get them on that path to being a digitally driven business? And why is that so important to invest in this year for their business's future?
Well, part of it goes back to the previous comment around generative AI. If we don't get things into a digital platform, and I keep using the word platform, I'm sorry for doing that, but that's where it's all going, into platforms like ServiceNow, Salesforce, tying together other platforms, then we won't be able to take advantage of the revolution around generative AI. In addition to that, there's so many things that are existing, forget about generative AI for a minute, that allow us to be more efficient and more functional in our organizations by moving from analog processes, which, believe it or not, there's actually a lot of people out there that still have analog processes within their business somewhere. Moving from analog to digital and then evolving from that digital to the next phase, again, going back to digital transformation, everybody's in some phase of it, is going to allow our organizations to be more efficient, more profitable, and in some cases just simply survive.
I actually want to turn around and back up to generative AI real quick the way you did. It's important to consider security in this day and age. We're seeing a huge influx of ransomware, malware, bad actors being able to prey on those who are using AI and not implementing tools that they might think already are built into Microsoft Copilot, but actually aren't. What can your customers do? How can they work with you to make sure that they're using this technology securely?
Well, step one that really came out of the webinar the other day is we've got to get our house in order. We've got to clean up data. We shouldn't have old stuff laying around. We need permissions and access levels, because it was one thing for the human being to go stumble upon something or even go looking for something or some things. Generative AI malicious tools, and in some cases non-malicious tools, are just going to go looking and then bring back that information to the human being to do something with, potentially do something with it on its own. So it's important that we get ahead of cleaning up. It's important that we think about how we are going to leverage the AI and the generative AI pieces to protect us against the malicious use of the technologies. We need to be one step ahead, and that mindset is it's imperative. We don't have a choice. We've got to get in front of generative AI as a protection tool, as we know it will be exploited. So is it important to get in and get ahead of the security perspectives that's coming with it? Yes. Policy and procedure? Yes. Most important, going back and finally cleaning up that data and some of those things that should no longer be accessible.
Can I ask you to expand on that a little bit? As somebody who wants to consider that there are people listening and watching who may not be technologists, what's an example of something that they should clean up, so to speak, in your own words?
Well, I'll give you one that I don't know why, but it keeps coming back to me all the time. When I was a systems administrator for a company that I worked at, probably job number 2 or 3, I was on this bent to take all these file shares and all this data that had been living out there for 10 years or so and force the executives of these different divisions or departments within the company, both, to at least be aware that it was out there and that various people still had access to it. For whatever reason, and I bet I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm not wrong by much. If I went back to that organization and looked today, I feel like those same file shares and that same data is probably still sitting there, and there's still a very big lack of knowledge at the business level. I mean, forget about IT. Who has access to your business stuff is a business conversation. I have a sneaky suspicion that data is still out there, still accessible by people that aren't in those departments, haven't been for 5 to 10 years.
I've heard several times over in the last, honestly, going back to before the pandemic, that businesses today have to consider that they are a technology organization, whether or not they believe it. If you're using a SaaS product, if you're using software, if you're relying on the cloud in any sort of way, you're an IT technology organization. Congratulations. It's important to consider how you go about functioning that way and protecting yourself. So some really good points there. Thank you for expanding on it. As you might have guessed, this is going to be a 2-part episode. So tune in again on Thursday for part 2. Thanks again to Andy for joining me, and thank you for watching or listening. Check out all of our episodes of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com or on YouTube at channelinsider_news and trends. You could also listen to the podcast of this episode on your preferred podcast platform. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow to never miss an episode. And if you've got a question for me or you want to be on the show, email me at partnerpov@channelinsider.com. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.